For reaction on these worrying numbers, I'm now joined by Senior Economist at the Alternative Information Development Centre, Dick Forslund. Thank you very much for your time this evening. We've mentioned it quite a number of times in this bulletin, Dick. A very, very worrying situation that South Africans find themselves in. And of course, it's a matter of urgency. But what exactly can be done to reverse the staggering unemployment rate that we are facing at the moment?
Yeah. Thank you, and good evening to you and the viewers. No, I think at the same time as this is happening, in my view, the government is with the harsh austerity policy that was reaffirmed in the midterm budget, which includes a plan of reducing the number of public sector workers by between 60 to 70,000 in 3 years. The government is acting against solving this situation. And the same goes for the wage freeze in the public sector. I mean, since many years, the South African economy is suffering from if there's any structures that should be corrected, it's the demand deficit. Sort of workers are paid too small wages and there's too little demand in the economy. So then there's no demand for labor either. It's one key thing to solve this crisis is to try to act for increasing worker wages, to stop austerity, to stop one of the main reforms that the government and the treasury is embarking upon, and that is to reduce public sector employment, also in health, in teaching, when it comes to the police, etc. It's all in the budget papers. And then you have also, of course, the tightening monetary policy, which siphons off economic demand from anyone who have a shopping card or credit card or paying bonds on a house or a car. Now some more billions are siphoned off to the finance sector, to the finance industry. And by the way, I think statistically, I doubt that over 200,000 jobs was sort of gained in the finance sector per se, sort of strictly speaking, by banks and financial institutions, because as far as I recall, in that statistical category, you have also the labor broking firms included. So if there's anything that is sort of increasing in this crisis, maybe some more workers got jobs by labor brokers. So I don't look especially positive either on that figure. And you can see also how the middle class is pushed by this crisis, because 65,000 domestic workers who are paid, who are working at a household who can afford it, sort of the upper middle class and the rich, they also lost their jobs. So yeah, it's a very bad situation, and the economic policy of the government has completely failed.
Right. You've mentioned the public sector wage bill as one of the issues that must be dealt with government. But you also talk about the fact that government must implement a decent basic income grant. And there have been many economists, Dick, who have gone against this, just saying that our economy at the moment cannot afford it. In your view, how does it then contribute to the creation of employment and also, as a result, create economic growth?
Well, first, when it comes to the basic income grant, the first thing we should think about is that people and children are going hungry. As you know, as many of the viewers know, you have a problem in South Africa with stunted growth of children up to 5 years of age, who are malnourished, who don't have enough to eat. But then it's also an issue of the economic demand in the economy, of course. And here the real cut in social grants by minus 15% in real buying power of the social grants, which also come in the midterm budget. It doesn't help, and it doesn't help to solve the hunger problem. But of course, when it comes to employment, well, sort of, if you don't cut the social grant, it makes a contribution to the domestic demand. But the main thing is to start to sort of have finance public sector jobs. We have leaking water pipes, we have sewage leakings, we have local roads that must be fixed, we have schools that needs to be repaired or built. But I mean, there's no lack of things to do in South Africa. There's a lot of things that need to be fixed. Also, which is on the account of investment. And investment is to educate children properly, not to increase the sizes in basic schooling from maybe 40, 50, 60 children per teacher to 7 to 80 children per teacher. But that is what is happening right now. So this austerity policy must be stopped. The tightening monetary policy must be reversed. And we will see what happens up until the February budget. But under normal circumstances, a completely failed government policy, for example, the 200 billion that was supposed to be lent to businesses from the private banks, has completely failed. So the government is relying on the finance sector when it should rely on sort of employing people as they are in public works that really are very much needed. So that's basically what the government should do, but what it doesn't want to do, it want to go in the opposite way, and I think that the economy is heading closer to a precipice. This will be even worse, I believe, in the next unemployment report.
Yeah, apart from a government being an employer, Dick, the private sector is quite important, specifically small businesses, which we know have been quite significant in the number of people that they are able to employ. Unfortunately, many of them have been hit by the July unrest, the load shedding in particular, and Eskom becoming a huge burden on their businesses. And I'm just wondering about your thoughts on the dealing with the situation of Eskom and the approach that should be taken here. We do have big corporates who can afford to do so, trying to get off the grid, creating their own power. But for those who can't, there needs to be a sustainable solution that can be found.
Yeah, well, first, when it comes to small businesses, I think that the idea to sort of encourage them to take on more loans, I think it was one of the reasons why the sort of lending program, the 200 billion lending program, has failed. I mean, it's rather that these businesses would need grants or sort of large subsidies. If you have a B&B and you can't see any recovery coming or any customers coming, the last thing you would do is to take on more loans. So if you want to keep them floating, it's more like you have to give them grants. So that's the first point. When it comes to Eskom, I mean, the idea to privatize, especially when it comes to distribution, in a situation when you have over half of the population living on the upper poverty line, it's also a failed idea. It means that you will, in the long run, you will deprive the population from sort of having electricity 24/7, because people will not be able to pay electricity without being subsidized. And I think it's also necessary here to, when you speak about concessionary lending and unsustainable debt of Eskom, you shouldn't seek concessionary lending from the finance industry or loan in dollars. There is large funds inside the public sector of other agents which should sort of be given the opportunity to give concessionary lending to the treasury. And one such large funds, which had 60 billion rand in surplus after paying pensions last year, it is the government employee pension fund, the state pension fund. They don't need these surpluses to pay pensions and benefits to, and there you should have a source of concessionary lending. The other fund which is there for the government to use, that is the UIF, the Unemployment Insurance Fund, which have a surplus of sort of assets of 160 billion rand. Also there, you should use it to give concessionary lending to the Treasury's budget. But it's almost like the Treasury needs a debt crisis in order to pursue the program of diminishing the public sector as a share of the whole economy. And I think it's absolutely the wrong way to go. There's not much profits or money to be made in the short run by repairing water pipes or sewage in townships or working class areas, or even maybe even in the CBD of Johannesburg. It's a typical public sector responsibility to fix this, and it should not be outsourced. It will only lead to more corruption.
Absolutely. Dr. Dick Forslund, who's a senior economist at the Alternative Information Development Centre, joining us there to speak about the latest unemployment numbers, record levels that the country is currently sitting on, with the youth bearing the brunt of that, as well as women being the most unemployed gender in the country at the moment.